Story time on how I found out that my imaginary friend at 5 years old was real. Okay, so I don't know about y'all, but I had an imaginary friend when I was 5 years old. So this was like 3 years ago, I want to say, something like that. It was paranormal day, and I was having a team meeting with my team, and my team lead was like, let's share some stories. Does anybody have stories to share? So everybody was sharing their story, and then it got to me, and they're like, Jasmine, do you have any stories to tell? And I'm like, as a matter of fact, I do. I told them I had an imaginary friend when I was 5. And it was so real to me that my brother, my mom, my dad, my aunts, my family, they would catch me talking to my friend in my room or in car rides or whatever the case was. This is where it gets freaky, and pay attention, stay till the end, because your mind will be blown, I swear. First of all, there is a cemetery down the street from my childhood home, and my aunt didn't work too far from us, and not too far from the cemetery. We'd have to pass the cemetery to get to her work, and we would go pick her up. Well, whenever we would leave the house, sometimes my friend wasn't with me, so I would tell my mom, like, Mom, like, my friend, I'm not gonna say her real name, I'm gonna say her name is Lisa. I would tell her, Mom, Lisa's not in the truck, like, we have to go back and get her. And my mom at first was like, Jasmine, like, no, like stop playing. I'm like, no, Mom, for real. So I would get really mad and really sad. I would have to, like, I would make my mom turn around to go pick up my friend. So my mom would turn around to go back to the house, and when we would be getting to my house, I would say, oh no, never mind, Lisa's already here. And my mom was like, what the heck, dude? Like, okay, whatever. Shout out to my mom for listening to me to make me happy. So like I said, we would pass the cemetery, and one day my mom says that I told her, Mom, look, that's where my friend lives. That's where she told me she lives. And my mom was like, oh, really? And then I'm like, yeah. And I'm pointing at the cemetery. Mind you, I'm 5 years old. What 5-year-old knows what a cemetery is, right? So we go pick up my aunt, and my mom, she's like stunned, right? She's like, what the hell? She's been talking to this imaginary friend for some time now, and now she's telling me that her friend lives in a cemetery. Okay, if my daughter were to tell me that right now, my 5-year-old daughter were to tell me, I would be freaked out, right? So my mom was freaked out. We go pick up my aunt. This imaginary friend was so serious for me. At the time, my whole neighborhood would kind of play together. All the kids would play together. All the kids would come to my house and play with me because I had a little playground. Even the kids that were a little bit older than me, they would come and push me on the swings. We'd play tag, all of that, right? And after a while, they started getting freaked out because I would say, oh, don't forget to push my friend Lisa, or oh, don't forget to go tag my friend Lisa. And they were just like, Jasmine, like, I'll be back. I gotta go home real quick. So it was just a big deal. Okay, fast forward, right? So I'm telling my coworkers all this, right? And they're like, oh my God. We get off the call, and one of my coworkers messages me on Teams, and she says, hey, I'm curious. Did you ever go and look in the cemetery, what do you call it? The word just like left my mind. The cemetery directory or something like that, to see if there was in fact a little kid there by the name of your imaginary friend, to see if they're actually there. And I was like, you know what? Like, I never thought of that. Stay with me. This is where it all comes together, and where I was just blown away. Stay with me. I did that. I went to the directory of that cemetery, and I type in my imaginary friend's name. Long and behold, a little girl pops up with my imaginary friend's name. Okay, now this is how I linked it and confirmed it. Okay, so my grandma passed away in December of 2000. My friend Lisa, date of death is 3 months prior to my grandma passing away, right? Okay, stay with me. I dug a little deeper because I was like, okay, she's there, but where is she, right? Where my grandma's plot is, my friend, my imaginary friend, her plot is like 3 blocks down from my grandma, which is not far at all. And that just stunned the heck out of me, because she had just been buried. She had just been buried when we went to my grandma's burial. So I'm like, oh my God, I must have stepped over her stone. I must have walked past it. I don't know where she attached herself to me. So I did more research, like I said, because I really dug into this. I was like invested. Just the fact that she exists. She was like 6 or 7 years old when she passed away. I dug in deeper. I put in my city, I put in the name, I put in where she, when she passed away, just to see if I could find a story about her, right? And I did. And it's a very sad story, and it's very unfortunate, and I felt really bad. I also did research about, young children's spirits. And what I read, when children pass on, some of them are confused. They don't know what's going on, right? They don't know what just happened to them. So their souls sometimes stay grounded, they stay where, in certain places or whatever. If you want more information on that, you can go and research it. But I was just so like, oh my God, like I had to tell somebody. So I called my husband. I told my husband, I was like, oh my God, dude, check this out. After I talked to my husband, I called my dad, because my dad is one of the persons that is very well aware of my imaginary friend. Okay, I'm running out of time. Go to part 2 to hear the rest of the story. Okay, part 2 of how I found out that my imaginary friend that I had at 5 years old was real. And if you haven't seen part 1, go to my page and watch it, and come back and watch part 2. Okay, so I proceeded to tell my dad everything that I had found out about my imaginary friend, and he was pretty stunned at the story of how she passed away. And he pretty much, told me what I had already researched, that, she might have been lost, she might have been scared, she might have been confused about, how, everything that happened, or, what happened, and which is why she attached herself to me. So everything about this story, it just like, for me to say it hits home, it is home. Her family is from my city, and very close by. Like, her house where she was taken from is not too far from my aunt's house, my aunt that we used to go pick up. Where they found her isn't far at all. Like, it's so just very close, right? It's very sad, and it's very unfortunate. It's one of those things where the mom's boyfriend, unalived her. I think that when I read that, I felt really good, I mean, like I said, it's very sad about what happened to her, and I hate things like that. I hate to see, hear, read stuff about, things like that happening to kids. But it kind of made me feel like some type of way, and it made me emotional. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, because look at me, I'm getting all teary-eyed. It made me feel good because I helped her in a way, you know what I mean? Like, the stories that my family tells me, and even the kids I used to play with in my neighborhood when we grew up, and they would be like, oh yeah, Jazz, like, after a while, when we would go play with you, it was always about Lisa, do this to Lisa, and push Lisa, and go catch Lisa. And there's no stories of like Lisa making me do something bad, or me being scared of Lisa. Like, it was never anything like that, so it made me feel good, because although she physically wasn't here, we played like I was her friend and she was mine. And that is the good thing that comes out of all of this. I will say as well, as I was researching everything, her murderer, he was sentenced to death, and they executed him a couple of years ago. To say that, the family got justice is something that I'm grateful for. Obviously, nothing is going to take away the pain of that family, but I feel like that brings them a little bit of peace. Now, my dad also proceeded to ask me, like, if I would go visit her tombstone. And now I'm scared of all that stuff. Like, do I want my kids to have an imaginary friend? No. And I don't know how my parents did it after all the stories that they would tell me. I guess they just weren't scared of that type of stuff. But I don't know, now that I know everything I know, like I said, I found all this out like 2 to 3 years ago, right? And it just changed everything for me. Like, I think about it in a whole different way, and I'm still thinking about going and possibly visiting her tombstone. But like I said, now I'm a chicken to all that stuff. So I'm like, do I want a ghost to get attached to me now? No. Like I said, there's nothing bad. There's no bad memories of me having this imaginary friend. Pobrecita, I feel really, really bad of how she was taken. But I'm so glad that that monster is dealt with and over with. But yeah, that's my story. And it's a crazy one. And it's like I said, I found out about all this 2 to 3 years ago, and I can still talk about it like if I just found out yesterday. But yeah, that's it.
All right, y'all, this story is from Alabama. Come on. Now, this woman says that she can remember a friend that she had when she was probably about 5 years old. She said the memory came up because her mom pulled out all of these old photos. And when she pulled out all the old photos, she was like, oh, well, what happened to that girl that I used to hang with all the time when I was that age? So she said that after she said that, her mom looked at her and was just like, girl, please, you barely had friends. You had your cousins. That's pretty much it. So she told the mom, like, no, I remember she used to go everywhere with me. She used to go to Gam Gam's house with me, her grandmother. And she said, and we used to go to the park. She just started naming off all these things that they used to do together. She said that her mom turned white and was just like, well, can you remember her name? And so she was like, yeah, I remember it started with an H. So the mom, pretty much looked like she was a little calmer. And she was just like, she thought that was weird because at first she looked like she had just seen a ghost. Now, her father has since then passed away. And so she wasn't able to ask him questions or anything about the girl that she knew she used to hang with when she was 5. But fast forward to, she went over her aunt's house with her cousins. Now, they're all grown now, and they're all just talking and chatting away, drinking a little bit. And she said that everybody, started talking about childhood. And she was like, hey, y'all remember that girl that used to come with me all the time when we were younger? And she used to come with me to grandma's house. And she said her cousins was just like, no, you didn't have friends. You had us. So she said that she ended up watching this movie with her cousins. It's supposed to be a scary movie, but she said she was watching this movie with her cousins, and it's called Imaginary. So she said that while she was watching it, she was just like, was that an imaginary friend? It pretty much sparked some interest, and she was just like, I've got to figure this out. So she said that she started digging around. She knew that her family were pack rats, so they never got rid of stuff. So she said that when she went back home to her parents' house, she said that she went to the attic and she also went to the basement and started like searching around in boxes to try to look for all the paintings and things that her and her friend did together. Now, she said when she started to look, she felt like somebody was watching her, but she knew that nobody else was there, so she ignored it because she knew that everybody else was still at her aunt's house. So then she said she started to find some paintings and, handprints and stuff. The handprints that you do when you're younger. She said she found some, and she found the name Haley on a couple of them. Now, she said when she confronted her mom about it, her mom pretty much was just like, look, you wrote all those things. You had an imaginary friend. There, wasn't a real person that was your friend. So long story short, she said that her mom and dad sent her to talk to someone because they thought that it was a little odd that she still had this imaginary friend at such a large age. They said that she was 11. So she still had that friend at the age of 11. Pretty much she said that she was 5 years old and she can, remember her all the way up to that age 11 when her parents sent her to talk to a specialist because they thought that something was wrong with her. So she said that ever since she's pretty much brought this up, And she said she took a couple of those paintings home with her that she found that had Haley's name on it. And she said ever since then, it always feels like someone is playing in her hair. Little things get moved around. And she pretty much was just like, I'm thinking that my imaginary friend was a ghost. But now she says she can't get rid of it. She said that things happen when she has company. She can't explain it to her company because she has the kind of friends that don't believe in that kind of stuff. So she said that she knows if she mentions it, they'll think she's nuts. So she said the latest thing that happened is she said the spirit won't allow like any of her friends to come over. And when her friends do come over, they pretty much leave regretting it. She said that the past couple days, literally a couple days ago, she said that she had a friend stay over. They were in town and they wanted to visit. She said that the friend stayed over at her apartment, and she said that it felt like somebody was pinching her, and you could see the red marks all over her arm. So then she said, lately she's been having a nightmare and she can't seem to stop having the same nightmare over and over again. And she said that in the nightmare, she can see a little girl being choked. And she said that it looks like a man's hands choking this little girl in her dream. She said that she thinks it is Haley, and Haley is trying to show her how she passed away. That's probably why your mom didn't want you to, bring up old stuff, because now look, you done took something home with you from your parents' house. And I understand, everybody gets that itch, where they like, oh, I just got to investigate more. But you probably should have left that one alone, baby. You need to let Haley know that she cannot stay at your house, that she has to go. Unless you want her there, terrorizing your guests. I mean, I wouldn't. But let her know that she has to go. She cannot be there, and you need to say it with conviction so that she can leave. Because what's next is she's going to want you all to herself. That's never good.